अस्सलाम वालेकुम and welcome to Kaam Kahani, podcast for the career curious. आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं सादिया दादा. She is the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at K Electric. So let's talk to Sadia about her career in communications, corporate affairs, etc. Assalamu alaikum, Sadia.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
Very good, alhamdulillah. You tell me.
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. I was so looking forward to this
Likewise.
episode. So, just to start things off, you're the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer. You have a long, mashallah, career in this field. Just explain to us briefly, or rather not briefly, go into detail. Communications kya hai? Why is it a separate function? Why is it an important function?
So, जब मैंने अपना career start किया, and communications is my, I think, heart. That's how I started off. तो मेरे घर वालों को भी समझ में नहीं आता था कि communications क्या है. अल्लाह का शुक्र है आज, I mean, this field is, I think, शाना बशाना as far as marketing is concerned. तो एक बहुत ज़्यादा understanding आ गई है. It's really the ability to connect with your stakeholders. और stakeholders हर तरह के हो सकते हैं. तो मुख्तलिफ लोगों से किस तरीके से बात करनी है. सो एवरीबडी हैज़ अ डिफरेंट स्टाइल, बट वो जो आपकी टोन ऑफ वॉइस होती है, एक वन वॉइस, एक सेंस ऑफ पर्पस होता है जिसे सब शायद मोटिवेट होते हैं, ख्वाह वो एम्प्लॉई हो, कस्टमर हो, शेयर होल्डर हो, इन्वेस्टर हो, गवर्नमेंट हो, रेगुलेटर हो. सो दैट वन टोन ऑफ वॉइस इज़ व्हाट कम्युनिकेशन ड्राइव्स फॉर द बिजनेस. मुश्किल वक्त में जिसे हम क्राइसिस कहते हैं, अल्लाह ना करे किसी बिजनेस पे आए, उसमें कम्युनिकेशन रियली सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टैंड्स अबव. एंड वो जो लाइसेंस टू ऑपरेट जिसे कहते हैं, रेपुटेशनल मैनेजमेंट, दैट्स रियली द कोर जॉब ऑफ ए कॉम्स फंक्शन. आजकल के ज़माने में इट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ एक्सपैंडेड अ लिटिल बिट मोर. व्हाट यू से, how you say it matters now. All of this has now become a bit of a science. So that's really how communications is structured and sort of is the underlying, I would say, backbone here of your company's image marketing.
In a company, there's finance and administration and business, HR. सब लोग अपने अपने stakeholders से communicate कर रहे होते हैं, right? But why have you sort of extracted that part of all of these functions and made a separate function?
आपका जो फाइनेंस वाला है वो अपनी फाइनेंस की बातों के हवाले से बात करेगा. आपका जो सेल्स वाला है वो सेल्स के हवाले से बात करेगा. कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं जो बिज़नेस के हवाले से होती हैं. फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल कि आपकी कंपनी जो है उसकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी है तो इतनी क्यों है, अगर नहीं है तो क्यों कम है. इसका जवाब बड़ा यूनिफॉर्म सा होना चाहिए. वी बिलीव इफ़ यू कैरी दैट वन वॉइस, अगर कोई पोजीशन है किसी इशू के ऊपर, और कम्युनिकेशन ज़्यादातर जो उसका एवोल्यूशन आया है वो पोजीशन के ऊपर ही आया है. एनिमल टेस्टिंग पे कंपनी की क्या पोजीशन है, दिस इज़ द फोटे ऑफ द कम्युनिकेशंस फंक्शन, कि आपने किस तरीके से उसको पोजीशन करना है. कम्युनिकेशंस का एक और भी नज़रिया है इंगेजिंग विद मीडिया. या आप जब बात करते हैं तो देयर इज़ अ सेंस ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. अक्सर ना हम बहाव में बह जाते हैं कि जी आप अपने नंबर्स को समझते हैं कि बेस्ट है. वी ऑल्सो गिव लाइक द आउटसाइड इन परस्पेक्टिव टू द बिजनेस कि जी फॉर एग्जांपल अगर एक ब्रांड वाला आके कहता है ना, आई हैव लॉट ऑफ लव फॉर माय मार्केटिंग कॉलीग्स कि जी वी आर द फर्स्ट वंस, तो हम एक जल्दी से ना सैनिटी चेक लगा के देखते हैं कि अच्छा जी ये इसके अंदर आप कह रहे हैं बट 1 2 3 येस और मे बी इट्स नॉट करेक्ट. सो एक सॉर्ट ऑफ वैलिडेशन भी है एंड मेकिंग श्योर कि जो कंपनी है वो जो भी बात कर रही है ना उसमें ट्रस्ट और क्रेडिबिलिटी, ये किसी भी बिजनेस के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती है. सो इट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ दैट रिपोजिटरी विच हैज़ सॉर्ट ऑफ एन ईगल्स आई ओवर व्हाट एवरीबडी एल्स इज डूइंग. यू कैन कंटिन्यू टू डू व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, बट देयर आर मैटर्स जो शायद आपके फंक्शन के नॉलेज बेस से थोड़ा बाहर है. एंड इंस्टेड ऑफ यू रनिंग अराउंड एंड गोइंग अराउंड द बिजनेस एंड आस्किंग एवरीबडी, वी मेक this space where we say, okay, this is the stance. It could be on a subject, it could be on an incident, it could be on the company's vision and purpose, but that's really what it does. So sort of like an umbrella of sorts. हम डे टू डे अफेयर्स में इंटरवीन नहीं करते, बट हम कहते हैं कि जी जहाँ पे इट मैटर्स देन यू नीड टू राउट इट. कम्युनिकेशन फंक्शन जो होते हैं वो कंपनीज में अलग अलग तरीके से बाय द वे इवॉल्व करते हैं. कुछ कंपनीज में दे वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, आई मीन दे विल साइन ऑफ ऑन ब्रांड कैंपेन्स. You would be surprised. There's so much that comes to our table which if you let it go unfiltered, वो आप एक लेंस लगाते हैं एंड यू से कि दिस कैन बी मिस इंटरप्रेटेड. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप देखते हैं काफ़ी सारे कैंपेन्स रिकॉल होते हैं. जब वो रिकॉल होते हैं तो उन कंपनीज में कम्युनिकेशन फंक्शंस की शायद नीड उजागर होती है. समटाइम्स यू मिस फायर, समटाइम्स यू put out a tweet. कभी कभी आप witty और funny होते हैं and it misfires. So that's where a sanity check is required. कुछ कंपनीज में जो है वो आज भी बहुत इन्फेंसी लेवल के ऊपर है. बट आई सी, मैंने अपना करियर 20 साल पहले शुरू किया था. आई एम सीइंग दिस एवोल्यूशन और आज काफ़ी ज़्यादा कंपनीज के अंदर कम्युनिकेशंस इज इवॉल्व्ड इनटू अ फुल फ्लेज्ड फंक्शन.
So you work at K Electric right now.
जी.
So of course, so K Electric while it's super important, it's also in the news a lot.
Yes.
कि ट्विटर के ऊपर स्पेशली बारिश के सीजन में जब जाहिर है बहुत ज़्यादा लोड होता है, बहुत गर्मियाँ होती हैं उस सीजन में भी, तो यूजुअली कॉम्स एंड स्ट्रेस isn't in most companies. It's not sort of synonymous, but I'm guessing K Electric में it's not a walk in the park.
अच्छा, I'll tell you, I get this asked a lot. सब जॉब स्ट्रेसफुल होती है. जॉब बाय मतलब द वर्ड इज डिज़ाइंड टू गिव यू स्ट्रेस. अलग अलग स्ट्रेस होता है. लाइन मैनेजर का स्ट्रेस होता है, KPIs का स्ट्रेस होता है एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ. येस, वी इन द न्यूज़ अ लॉट एंड दैट्स बिकॉज हमने बहुत अर्ली ऑन वी डिसाइडेड दैट नो मैटर व्हाट इट टेक्स we will address people's queries. I'm seeing the volumes go down. I'm seeing the positive voices come up and also because सच्ची बात है, अगर आपको आप सड़क पे जा रहे हैं और सामने से एक इंसान आ रहा है और वो क्रॉस कर गया आपको, तो आप उसको थम्स अप तो नहीं देने वाले कि यार यू डिडंट हिट मी, थैंक यू सो मच. कोई आके आपको हिट करेगा, आपने तभी शोर मचाना है. सो जनरली द नॉइज कम्स फ्रॉम पीपल हु आर अपसेट और हु फील लाइक देयर इज अ गैप. द गुड वंस विल नॉट गिव यू अ ग्रेट जॉब एंड आई डोंट एक्सपेक्ट दैट. वो एक्सपेक्टेशन होनी भी नहीं चाहिए. वी आर वर्किंग ऑन सॉर्ट ऑफ गोइंग पर्सन बाय पर्सन. अच्छा, हम थोड़ा सा पील दी अनियन भी करते हैं लोगों के साथ, लाइक यू विल सी. और एक हैबिचुअल है थोड़ा सा, लिटिल बिट एक हैबिचुअल भी है. यू विल मीट समवन बी लाइक यार बहुत लोड शेडिंग है, एंड देन यू आस्क देम अच्छा जी आपके यहाँ लोड शेडिंग होती है? नहीं, मेरे यहाँ नहीं होती है. एंड आई विल आस्क यू दैट सेम क्वेश्चन.
हमारा बिल बहुत आता है for
हाँ,
example.
हमारा बिल बहुत आता है. आप उसके ऊपर यू कैन डू दी स्टेप्स, मतलब यूनिट के हिसाब से आता है. अच्छा, पहले आता था कि जी मेरा बिल इन्फ्लेटेड है. देन वी स्टार्टेड पुटिंग इन दीज मैकेनिज्म्स एड्रेसिंग कि जी अच्छा वी ब्रॉट इन दीज मीटर्स, वी ब्रॉट इन इक्विपमेंट, वी ब्रॉट इन टेस्टिंग कैपेबिलिटीज, वी स्टार्टेड पुटिंग इन मीटर्स ऑन द PMTs कि जी लेट्स टैली पॉइंट A टू पॉइंट B जो जा रहा है, इज इट टैलिंग विद द सिस्टम. आपके अपने बिल में कोई आ रहा है, अच्छा जी, फिर उन्होंने कहा जी मेरा टैरिफ बहुत ज़्यादा है. अब यहाँ पे आके थोड़ी सी हमारी लिमिटेशन है हारिस. टैरिफ सेटिंग is the purview of the government. I cannot change it. मैं एक पैसा ऊपर नीचे नहीं चार्ज कर सकती. I cannot discriminate
But
between
surely you
customers.
have some say in it, right?
It's literally set by the government. K Electric की profitability तक का ताल्लुक नहीं है. So for example, if your tariff goes up by 7 rupees, it doesn't make my profit different, doesn't affect my business. My business principles are set and agreed in a separate space. The government decides कि जी what will Haris and Hassan pay. Those decisions are by slab. So they have decided कि जी 200 से कम यूनिट वाले इतने पैसे देंगे, 500 से 700 वाले इतने देंगे, and so on so forth. इंडस्ट्री इतने देगी. फ्यूल कॉस्ट का फ्यूल कॉस्ट का कंपोनेंट जो बढ़ता है तो उसका एक तयन का प्रोसेस है. वो नेपरा की एक हियरिंग होती है, उसमें सारे नंबर्स प्रेजेंट किए जाते हैं. उसके बेसिस पे वो एक तखमीना लगाते हैं जो कैस्केड होता है कि जी ये कस्टमर्स के बिल्स में लगना है. फ्यूल कॉस्ट में कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ी बहुत गुंजाइश होती है, बट अदर दिन दैट जो टैरिफ है दैट सेट बाय द गवर्नमेंट. यूजुअली वंस अ ईयर करते हैं. पिछले साल थोड़ा उन्होंने 2-3 दफ़ा उसको इंक्रीज़ किया था. बेस टैरिफ के अंदर एक सरचार्ज भी लगा दिया था. बट दैट्स वेयर आर लिमिटेशन. हम लोगों को समझाते हैं कि देखें आई कांट रिड्यूस योर टैरिफ बिकॉज ये राइट हमें हुकूमत ने, हमें क्या लेस्को आईएसको किसी के पास भी ये राइट नहीं है कि वो चार्ज कर सकें. और उसका एक वजह है. उसकी वजह ये है कि अगर फॉर एग्जांपल डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी प्राइसिंग होगी तो बिजनेसेस जो हैं वो अक्रॉस द नेशन वाइड एक जोग्राफिकल डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो जाएगी. आपकी गैस की प्राइसिंग इज़ द सेम अक्रॉस द कंट्री, और पेट्रोल एंड योर बिजली, दे आर ऑल सेंट्रली मैंडेटेड कि जी इट विल बी द सेम. जो पेशावर में है, जो चमन में है, जो तुरखम में है, वही कराची में है, वही ठट्टा में भी प्राइस है. दैट्स हाउ द सिस्टम इज़ डिज़ाइंड. दैट सेड हम लोगों को ये ज़रूर एजुकेट करते हैं कि यू कैन ब्रिंग डाउन योर कंजम्पशन. इट इज़ पॉसिबल. स्टेप बाय स्टेप आप इन्वर्टर वाले पंखे लगाएं, एनर्जी स्टार एफिशिएंट अप्लायंसेस लगाएं. द बिजनेस केस इज़ ह्यूज. अगर आप छोटी सी सेविंग करें, द इम्पैक्ट इज़ फिनोमिनल, एंड देन यू कैन ब्रिंग डाउन योर स्लैब, come into the lower category and reduce your bill.
I've seen that. I've seen that evolution myself.
It's a very tough conversation. It's a
I
very tough
imagine.
conversation, but we have to have them.
And I'm sure K Electric is sort of the master of tough conversations, right? Because it has to, you can't escape them.
True.
और I've seen this evolution myself. बचपन में हमारे लोड शेडिंग होती थी, पता ही नहीं होता एकदम से लाइट चली गई. अब एटलीस्ट जब लोड शेडिंग होती भी है तो वी आर इन्फॉर्म्ड, वी हैव एन ऐप, एंड ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर दीज पब्लिक सर्विस कैंपेन्स जिसमें बताते हैं कि अब अपना स्लैब डिफरेंट कर लें. तो sure that has happened, but of course it's not the most, and it never will be the most popular companies, or this sector, any company in this sector will never be.
अच्छा, वैसे कभी कभी हमारे इंटरनली जब होता है ना, तो जो सामने होता है ना, आपको उसके बारे में कॉन्वर्जेशन करते हैं, एंड दिस रियली हेल्प्ड अस अराइव एट अ बिजनेस डिसीजन मेकिंग, क्योंकि हम मोनोपोली थे एक ज़माने में, तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा. Oh, I can explain that. So, you know, we were sort of on the hot seat for a lot of things because we were the only ones providing it. In January, and I do commend my CEO, my board, for taking a very bold decision. We actually filed, हमारा license expire हो रहा था जुलाई में, so we voluntarily filed for a non-exclusive license. So technically, अगर कोई और company invest करना चाहती है and they want to come and sell power to this territory, technically they can. अब वो regulatory जो मराहिल हैं वो सारे करके, so we're welcoming competition, and you know why? For two things. One, there's a lot of expectation because we're the only ones. We also want कि अगर हमसे कोई बेहतर कर सकता है तो 100 बिस्मिल्लाह आए. The customer will win. If the customer is better off, the system will be better off. हो सकता है हमें भी कुछ सीखने को मिल जाए. अभी तो हारिस सच्ची बात है. There is, if you look at the landscape, we technically have no competition in the country. It'd be good for us to learn. हमारे लिए शायद बहुत मुश्किल होगा because you've had 100 years of legacy. You're set in your ways. You've worked in a certain way, but we're prepared to do that, and we want to do it because we want to see कि और क्या क्या चीज़ें हो सकती हैं. And even in that process, we're evolving the way, even today, the way that we work. और ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. अगर आप companies को देखें, companies that refuse to change in response to the voice of the customer are no longer there. Companies that failed to take stock of the changing technological landscape. मतलब, do you own a Nokia phone? Do you own a camera film? You don't. Those companies didn't evolve. I mean, Fuji could have outlived that cycle and stayed as a brand. It chose not to because it didn't evolve. We want to evolve. So that's really how we think. So technically, anybody can come and provide services to the city.
Last question on K Electric, because it's something, it's a unique sort of comms role, right? I mean, you have to admit. So, which is why I'm very curious about it. जो मुझे पूछना था, like, where does the buck stop? Like, if some communication goes wrong, K Electric के अंदर, who is responsible for it?
So different forms of communications के different project owners हैं. So for example, there is somebody there is a person in KE जो SMS design के अंदर उसका काम है कि जी ये जाना है, उसके ये parameters हैं. We've not gone grossly wrong, but we've got ground rules कि जी this is how it is. In terms of crisis, we have a crisis structure, or where crisis coordinator उस crisis के accordingly appoint होता है, and that person defines कि जी this is how it's going to work. We have a WhatsApp group. The general rule is कि देखिए speed ना आजकल के ज़माने में speed is the essence, right? I mean, between a news breaking and it breaking on TV, you have a very small window. The earlier you catch it, the faster your response, but it has to be accurate. So we will not rush it because we want to just get it sorted. So we've created some unique systems where जो हमारे comms की team है उसमें एक designated person है, वो drive करते हैं कि जी अच्छा जी this is I sign off on media. So एक central आपका starting point बन जाता है, and then everybody starts creating their pillars and cascading them. They go on that group. 15-minute window है. If something is going up that needs to go out, everybody knows to just keep a lookout. Stuff will start getting populated here. If you have a problem, speak up. So it's very fast.
So structure is important.
It's very decentralized because otherwise, I'm not a school teacher, Haris. I'm not going to sit and say, okay, this you can say, this you can't say. It doesn't work like that. It's never worked like that. It's not practical, true, that also. I'd never sleep, you know.
Yeah, you never.
So we've got manuals, we've got templates, and believe me, you know, कहते हैं कि अगर आपका कोई सवाल है और आप गूगल पे टाइप करेंगे तो किसी ने पूछा होगा पहले. तो हमें जो सवाल पूछे जाते हैं, somebody's asked us before and we've sort of documented that on our system कि जी this is the answer. इतनी मोटी मैनुअल है but है searchable है. Somebody asks you, आप ट्विटर पे पूछ लें, इसीलिए 90% प्लेटफॉर्म से आपको जवाब भी सेम मिलेगा.
Because of course you learn from questions that you've been asked.
Yes, we do.
And you record those. More importantly.
We tag those in. So for example, there's a recurring frequency. हमारी different teams की weekly meetings होती हैं. So you know the call center people they'll do a huddle and they say, okay, this question I didn't have an answer to it. So we'll put it down on a board, find the answer, put it in the manual. The social media team will say, oh, somebody asked me this question, I didn't have an answer to it. We'll put it down and we'll put there. The next time somebody asks that question, you've got the answer. It's a constant learning process. Hopefully, AI will help us get better at it. So, and we're working on that as well, and it's a lot of fun. I genuinely, the way digital transformation ने जितना काम हमारा मुश्किल भी किया और आसान भी किया है, I mean that's really that gives you sleepless nights and also good sleep.
किस और कंपनी में के इलेक्ट्रिक जैसी कॉम्स होती है?
So ये जो सबवे systems होते हैं दुनिया में, very similar. Because that's also like, you know, always on again. Most of them are the only ones servicing that area. The frequency of communication, this line is down, that system is down. So, and I've sort of gotten into it. Vertically integrated power utilities बहुत कम है. If I were to compare Pakistan में, there are small parallels होते हैं. I would say, क्योंकि again, I mean, they're not an exclusive company, but मैंने एक एजेंसी में काम किया है CMC में. तो हमारे उस वक्त रिपोर्ट जब बनती थी तो वो प्रिंटेड होती थी, बड़ा पेपर ज़ाया होता था उस ज़माने में. तो के इलेक्ट्रिक की जितना थद्दा होता था ना, उसी के कंपेरेबल एक थद्दा होता था. मैं उसका नाम लूँगी, PIA. Very tough again. So probably, so अगर अब्दुल्ला सुन रहे हैं तो
So I was looking at your CV and your LinkedIn, and it seems like a curated list of like blue chip companies and the top companies, which is great, mashallah. But would you ever consider working for a startup, because that's very different from what you've been doing?
The risk of giving my HR head the jitters. Why would I work for one?
Okay.
I'd start one.
So you would?
Why not?
What kind of startup would you start?
That I don't know.
In fact, what kind of startups do you dream about, like being a comms person, or have other comms people started?
अच्छा, दो चीज़ें मुझे बहुत एडवांटेज देती हैं. एक, because I'm a people person, I'm out and about. I really honestly do a lot of time boxing and I make sure that I do networking. And दूसरा, female leaders बहुत कम हैं पाकिस्तान में. By virtue of these two attributes, I get to learn a lot from this community. You know, a lot of events, awards, jury. I was just 2 days ago part of the SC Women in Tech jury panel. तो आपको बहुत कुछ सीखने का मौका मिलता है, देखने का मौका मिलता है, आइडियाज़ भी आते हैं, इंस्पिरेशन भी मिलती है. कभी कभी दिल करता है कि अल्लाह इतने पैसे दे कि मैं इन्वेस्ट करूं किसी में. I haven't given it like a lot of thought, but हाँ, एक ड्रीम है कि you know, maybe put something out there, for sure, something along the lines of women empowerment. It's just something that I think I've carried all my life. Maybe something digital, something that would bring ease to life. It could be something trivial, or it could be something material.
So you have large canvas because
because
you've exposed to so many different.
आपने पूछा है, वरना I would say कि I mean this is not exactly a train of thought, but मैं मेमन हूँ. I don't know if that's okay to say, but हमारे business हमारे DNA में होता है. So
another guest, his name is Farid Machiara. He was also talking about being a Neman, and that's he's very proud of it. And he was telling us the secrets of.
So जब आपने कहा तो मेरे my DNA responded
Yes,
really
yes.
Immediately कि business करना है. So maybe and a lot of startups by the way, a lot of startups in the ecosystem. आप देखिए नहीं मना है.
Absolutely, no, of course. Women have like a huge contribution.
बाजार देख लें, Endeavor देख लें, Kareem देख लें. So there's a
something is coming up soon. Sooner or later. अच्छा तो आपने you mentioned कि women leaders come in, but comms में interestingly there's lots of women. मतलब on my LinkedIn, in fact, most people I know in comms they're women. तो इसकी क्या वजह है and like why is this? Why is this sort of different from the usual?
I think जो defining characteristic है comms के लिए, you need to be extremely intuitive. और जो core attributes हैं उसमें you have to be almost like an arbitrator. You want to create sort of a middle ground which is a bit vanilla, and a degree of compassion. So thoda sa by virtue of the nature, I think it's become a space where women have ended up sort of taking this space a lot more. So it's also, I'd say, a very interesting, delicate balance. Most comms and successful comms departments will only and always report to the CEO. So you shine bright, but just bright enough to not give the man on top a complex. I'm sorry for being blunt, but that's the truth. But over time, तो वो एक ज़माने में ये concept था. अब it's sort of morphed into a more professional arena, but it's just that by virtue of women always taking the lead
HR maybe
in this space.
Similar, I guess.
I think where compassion, people-centric, more collaborative वाली जगह होती हैं, वहाँ intuitively, I think ख़वातीन are also drawn a lot more to these roles. They find it
rewards women more than it rewards men.
What?
The comms function. In the sense, is it more satisfying for women to be in that function? Or do they have an advantage, in fact? That's what
I've worked and known almost all of them. Equally competent हैं, सबकी अपने अपने niches हैं. I think जहाँ पे आपका media relations या stakeholder engagement जो है, that side, उसमें थोड़ी सी limitation आ जाती है शायद. Again, the world is evolving. Like I said, ये शायद 10 साल 15 साल पुरानी अगर मैं बात करूँ तो ये बहुत मैटर करती थी चीज़ें. I think now the profession has evolved. Even by the way, all businesses have evolved, जो at least the good ones, कि अब ये जो gender के जो constructs थे वो थोड़े से dissipate हो रहे हैं. So like you have women leaders, female CFOs, you have female CEOs, and the world is changing. So एक ज़माने का वो आप baggage carry कर रहे हैं. But मुझे future में लगता है कि I think it's more of a more equitable distribution in the future pipeline than maybe existing one. But मैं अपने fingertips पे देखूँ तो उतने ही I think women in comms है जितना men है. I think percentage wise अगर आप corporate representation की बात करें तो शायद वो एक कंपनी में शायद अगर 10% खवातीन है तो आप assume करते हैं कि इस सेक्टर में भी 10% होंगी, तो percentage wise नहीं है. But I think वैसे men and women are about equal. मेरे सर्कल में तो मैं यही देखती हूँ.
How did you end up in comms?
By accident.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's you kept at it though. For an accident, it turned out to be pretty good one.
I was doe-eyed girl in college. I wanted to go into journalism and I really wanted to go into media production. My first job was at Daily Times. I was studying and working. Then I joined Hum TV, entertainment channel, Pakistan ka pehla launch phase and so on and so forth. So I've done the production, line production, direction, मतलब हर तरीके का काम किया. And then there was a big team shift, so I got an opportunity at CMC. And I didn't, जैसे आपने पूछा ना communications क्या होता, I had no clue what it was. And I walked in and I met, I don't know अगर आपकी कभी मुलाकात हुई हो जावेद इकबाल से. JI is known in the PR fraternity.
Very well known, yes.
And I met him and I was like, and he's like, I mean, he will sell he will sell you a rock for a diamond and you would buy it. So, and I was very impressed. And, a week later, he said, would you like to join? And I said, I don't know what it is, but, and he said, I think you'd be good at it. Ajo. Said, okay. And 2 fabulous years, learned so much.
CMC is one of the oldest PR and comms firms.
It's literally like a nursery. And I learned so much from him. I got to work very closely with him, and then I didn't look back.
So it was an accident, and then maza aane laga, and then you were good at it, and then so you saw a path.
Literally saw an ad in a newspaper, and I went. So I was like, अच्छा चलो देखते हैं, salary attractive थी. So I said, हाँ चलो देखते हैं, and I even in the interview I was sold. Okay, this is what I want to know.
So they have their comms right.
Oh, like I said, he can sell you a rock and say it's a diamond, and you'll buy it.
So do comms teams also sort of manage or oversee the quality of comms in other functions? I mean, shouldn't they're the specialists, shouldn't they have something to say about how HR is talking to prospective candidates, या finance किस तरह से लोगों से बात कर रहा है वगैरह?
Control no, but guide, maybe govern. कि अगर आपकी, for example, your company is positioning itself as, a company which is equal opportunity employer, and then we give opportunities to persons with disabilities or mothers who have taken a career break, then people who are interviewing can't go around saying कि जी oh no sorry हम तो आपको नहीं रख सकते because of this. So governance, yes, but a lot of comms is sort of cascading and empowering the end user or the end communicator or engager, whatever word you want to use it, with the right information, with the right positioning. It's a little bit of brainwashing, I'd say. Is that you sort of inculcate and you communicate at such high frequency that मैं जो सोचती हूँ वो हारिस भी सोचे, वो हारिस का कॉलीग भी सोचे, जो फाइनेंस या एचआर का हेड है उसको भी वो थॉट प्रोसेस, सो लॉट ऑफ अलाइनमेंट एंड बाय
internally.
Constant communication. Internal communications actually बहुत बड़ा पिलर है. और अगर आपके एम्प्लॉयज़ बाइन नहीं लेते, आपकी बात पे यकीन नहीं करते, आपके स्टैंड्स उनको मालूम ही नहीं है, तो आप कैसे एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे कि वो लेकर जाएं?
That's why it reports into the CEO, because it's sort of the driver of the culture.
Driving from the top, leadership level के ऊपर, and that's where you have to take everybody along. You have to make sure everybody stays on board. Constant refresher, and it's like a constant cycle of communication and trust. I mean, if I would say कि अगर आपके comms का role क्या होता है, literally the trusted advisors of the company saying कि जी this is the right route. And there are things, right? Okay, like for example, if you look at an old TV show, I'll give you an example. You look at it today and you'll be like, yeah, that show hasn't aged well. Even Friends के अंदर, there are so many examples of things and you'll be like, oh my God, how did that pass? So world is evolving, and we want to make sure कि हम company को build करें to sort of be in sync with that evolution and change according to time. It could be that something was okay a couple of years ago, it's not okay today. So you say, okay, let's pivot. और अगर आप यूँ करेंगे ना तो शायद break होगा. So there's a little bit of a graduation कि आप migrate करते हैं, you get the org ready for the next step in their cycle. It's a very interesting, a very fluid role, and I enjoy it a lot. I know a lot of comms people do. They love, sort of being in that, not really in the driving seat, but navigation रखी होती है उन्होंने अपने हाथ में.
Tell us something about your training, or your what did you study, and how did it prepare you for a career in comms?
I went to LUMS. I graduated from LUMS. I did my undergrad in social sciences. उसमें उस ज़माने में बहुत ज़्यादा flexibility नहीं होती थी disciplines की, but I studied 2 strands. So you've got your math and econ and development on one side, which are core subjects at LUMS. You have to do them. Liberal arts बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं था, so you had to study them. I ended up doing a lot of human psychology and social development. So, a lot of social development principles, things about how projects evolve. मेरा जो hardcore passion है वो sustainability के projects के अंदर है. So working with landmark and flagship programs, making sure that you create these interventions that are like not one off or one hit wonder वाला हिसाब किताब नहीं है, very ecosystem like developments. So creating that was really what I studied. And my career at CMC was I worked with a couple of brands, अच्छे number MNC brands here, and I do a lot of work with them on their purpose and sustainability and their shared value visions, and that's really what drives me. और मुझे लगता है कि आप ना बिला वजह मैं आपसे आके बात करूँगी और मैं बताऊँगी कि मैं यूँ हूँ मैं ये हूँ, you will not be interested in what I'm saying, but you create and curate those moments, those opportunities, and those brand building moments where you connect with people at a deeper level and then they buy in what you say. So lot learned on the job. मेरा बहुत ज़्यादा experiences आए. So for example, when I was at Mobilink, they used to call it Mobilink back then, so I'm going to call it Mobilink. And the floods happened, and Mobilink was part of the Orascom group at that point in time. So and they said, so they gave us a lot of training, a lot of how to talk to media, body language की क्या importance होती है, why is it important to say things a certain way, what are our brand values, and when you show up at an event what you should look like. So they gave us all of these trainings, rigorous trainings, and then they also told us how to structure large scale interventions in emergency relief. They knew, they had been through a couple, so they knew what they were doing, and they imparted all of those trainings to us. I did a lot of my digital training. 2010 में hardly any company had Twitter or Facebook presence online. They taught us कि आप किस तरीके से करें और क्या लेके चलें. So that on the job training. And then I think when I came to Unilever, वहाँ पर the company was just right time. I think उस वक्त जो global CEO है Paul Pullman, he wanted to sort of create sustainable living as a business model. So sustainability in part of the business, not कि जी आप जाएं किसी स्कूल को जाके upgrade कर दें किसी को check writing दें. He wanted to make it into business. Emissions को कम करें, waste को कम करें, and that's really true meaning of sustainability. So being part of that exercise and being involved in it really taught me a lot. So mostly on the job, and then I think the social development and psychology का जो foundation थी, that helped me.
But I'm guessing comms में आने के लिए there's no one correct training, right? Or is there? A lot of people study mass communications, for example,
Yes.
and then they come into
Yes.
to comms. A lot of people are just sort of MBAs who come into comms.
I think it's more of a personality trait that makes you stand apart and stick to it. I know a lot of people who have either started their careers in comms and moved on, or come in from other careers and thrived in comms. So I think it's more of a personality driven. If you have a little bit of empathy, a lot of patience, because you will get a lot of questions at you, and you will get them 1,000 times from different quarters, and you still have to answer each one. So a lot of patience and a little bit of a sense of humor.
Of course.
So to keep your wits about you and find the silver lining even in your darkest moments, or create opportunities out of tough experiences.
But अभी आपकी description this doesn't sort of reflect the nature of
थोड़ा सा
comms.
पागल होना पड़ता है हारिस.
So it doesn't reflect the nature of comms in many other companies, for example. काफ़ी सारी companies में comms is a very minor function. It's a much smaller function. I've seen comms report into HR, for example, or comms report into, I don't know, admin, for example, right? So you think comms is always an important function, या कुछ companies में वाकई it's ऐसे ही छोटा मोटा function?
हारिस, आप रेस्टोरेंट में जाके वेटर से पूछते हैं आपकी कौन सी डिश अच्छी है, तो उसने तो कहना है सारी अच्छी हैं. तो मैं यही कहूँगी कि आई थिंक, एंड आई जेन्युइनली बिलीव इट एज वेल, इट्स वेरी इंटेग्रल. बट आपको उसको उसकी वैल्यू का अगर अंदाज़ा नहीं है तो इट इज़ रियली योर लॉस. I think comms can help you unlock a lot of opportunities, unlock a lot of potential. Comms can have an effect on your employee productivity, morale. It can have an impact on your business mood. अगर मैं आजकल का एग्जांपल है मैं आपको वैसे दे दूँ, आई थिंक ओपन एआई की जो टीम है उसको अपनी कॉम्स बेहतर करने की बहुत सख्त ज़रूरत है. लॉट ऑफ एम्प्लॉयज़ आर जंपिंग शिप बिकॉज दे डोंट बिलीव in what the board has put out when they let go of the CEO Sam Altman की firing के बारे में. I think they could have done it a lot better. And now they are facing the brunt of the fact that a lot of employees are leaving. You know, your president walked away, reputational damage. आपका काम रुक गया, आपकी चीज़ें परेशानी में आ गई. Your you know, market value is like plummeting. And look at how Microsoft spun it. I mean, they just put out the announcement saying, you know, Sam, you're welcome, you know, while we support everything, blah, blah, blah. We're the biggest stakeholders of Microsoft. A, we didn't know this was happening. B, you're more than welcome to continue here. 2%, 2% share price up. And that's good, solid comms. You seize the opportunity, you react on time. तो हाँ, एज अ कंपनी आपको ये डिसाइड करना है कि आपको ये करना है कि नहीं करना है, वेदर यू वांट टू बी इन दैट स्पेस. सो स्मॉलर कंपनीज में शायद एचआर एडमिन को आप रिपोर्ट करवा लें, फिर वहाँ पे वो कॉम्स नहीं है, वो आई वुड कॉल देम द पब्लिक रिलेशंस डिपार्टमेंट वेयर यू डू प्रेस रिलीज इन यू नो sentence in. But if you would like for someone, and Twitter account तो CEO का ही होता है. If you would like for someone to run in your CEO's Twitter account, that person has to report to the CEO or at least be very familiar with how he or she speaks, because authenticity तो नहीं आ सकती, या तो फिर CEO खुद रन करे. That's the other thing. और ये भी by the way एक बड़ा trend है. A lot of CEOs are taking a lot of interest, in-person interest in comms. You would see the ones who take their time out to be part of dialogue and policy, they value this a lot more. And you would see that in their comms teams as well. जो शाना बशाना खड़ी हैं उनकी comms में और जो नहीं खड़ी हैं उनकी comms में ज़मीन आसमान का फ़र्क
है. So you think जो जिनके यहाँ छोटे functions हैं, basically publications department है, they are losing out, and it could sort of really positively affect their bottom line if they have a better, if they put in more resources into comms?
Absolutely.
So all those textile mills, for example, who are, by the way, like exporting hundreds of millions of dollars, and they have sort of really small, negligible comms departments, they could benefit as well.
जो एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, the world is changing. It's the era of ESG disclosures. IFRS जो इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं वो मैंडेटरी होने वाले हैं. व्हेन यूर एक्सपोर्टिंग योर जो आपके क्लाइंट्स हैं अब्रॉड, इन लेंडर्स, डोनर्स, दे ऑल वांट टू नो यू नो हाउ आर यू conducting your business, are you doing it properly? And comms is not just about, you know, the fluff, it's actually hardcore substance. आप सस्टेनेबिलिटी पे क्या काम कर रहे हैं, आप अपने एम्प्लॉयज़ को कैसे ट्रीट करते हैं, आपकी रिकॉर्डिंग, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, गवर्नेंस, ट्रांसपेरेंसी, प्रिंसिपल्स, कोड ऑफ कॉन्डक्ट, ये सब चीज़ें एग्जिस्ट करती हैं कि नहीं करती हैं. So there's a lot of HR stuff, there's a lot of finance stuff, and then there's a lot of sustainability stuff that you need to do. So you'll have to find somebody to do it for you. अब आप उसको comms कहें, कुछ और कहें, but whoever is structuring all of that information for your international market, वो बेहतर है. और मैं आपको एक बात बता दूँ, people outside of Pakistan who are now, you know, investing in this country or exporting, Pakistan के exports जिनके पास जा रहे हैं, they're increasingly asking these questions. You can actually unlock a lot of funding for projects if you're able to position, you know, the good stuff that your company is doing. और पाकिस्तान में तो मतलब देखिए, अगर आप इटली या यूरोप का एग्जांपल देखें तो वहाँ पे डूइंग सोशल गुड इज़ अ वेरी बिग चैलेंज. पाकिस्तान में तो आप ये बोतल उठा के यहाँ से यहाँ रख देंगे और ट्रैफिक जैम खुल जाएगा. दैट्स एडिंग वैल्यू. सो देयर इज सो मच ऑन द टेबल. व्हाई वुड यू नॉट लेवरेज इट?
Fair enough. What are some of the biggest career mistakes you made, or if any, or have you not made any mistakes?
I'm sure I've made plenty. I've just not looked back on them. Always looking forward. I would say कि मैंने मुझे एक मौका मिला था to go and do some experience with a commercial site, so add value to जो bottom line वाली बात है. I was like, मैं कॉम्स हूँ, मैं क्यों करूँ, मैं तो superior हूँ, I tell the CEO what to say, I don't need to do this. I was a lot younger then. And मुझे लगता है कि शायद मुझे 1-2 साल वो कर लेना चाहिए था, मुझे ये डरना नहीं चाहिए था कि जी you know I will not be able to come back to this, because marketing and you know that sense also has its own glam and challenge. But I genuinely loved what I was doing. I was really good at it, and I stayed there. So maybe that. So you know, you
Not
have to
going
have.
into like a commercial.
You should have multiple flavors of the business. उस वक्त पता नहीं चलता, but when you start growing into you know your leadership roles, the rotation, the variety, the diversity of experience really matters. As somebody in this space, I see very few people who've got a hardcore comms experience go on to become CEOs. इक्का दुक्का examples हैं, वो बहुत अच्छी नहीं है. So
You can do that when you start your business, right?
तो वो तो फिर देखे ना, खुद को लकब देने, तो फिर
खुद को कुछ भी बना
वो
दो।
सेटिस्फैक्शन जो है शायद आए शायद ना आए, एंड वो दिल्ली दूरस्त. So but I would say you know this is something that maybe I'd advise people to not I think वो specialization and single skill era जो है ना वो थोड़ा पीछे चला गया, and if you want to go really far, you
The
have
age
to
of the
have.
generalist also.
Yeah, so it's the age of the generalist. So I do sometimes feel, अब मैं जो काम कर रही हूँ जिसमें मैं डिजिटल इनेबलमेंट पे काम कर रही हूँ, आई एम इम्पैक्टिंग द बॉटम लाइन. यू नो there's a lot of cost avoidance projects that I'm working on and creating value, which is a lot of fun as well. And I'm like, यार ये पहले करना चाहिए था. So but maybe still not too late, I don't know.
So comms, एक सवाल मैंने बहुत पहले सोच कर रखा हुआ था. Comms and politics go together. There was American President Donald Trump के उनके पहले एक प्रेस सेक्रेटरी होते थे, शॉन स्पाइसर. तो वो जब उनकी इनॉग्रेशन थी, मुझे याद है, उसकी नेक्स्ट डे वो आए और उन्होंने कहा कि दिस वाज द बिगेस्ट, फेमसली उन्होंने कहा कि दिस वाज द बिगेस्ट crowd at any inauguration ever, period. You know, so I know this wasn't obviously true, but मेरा question ये है कि are some things indefensible? Like, you know, लोग कहते हैं it's the most difficult job in the world to defend Donald Trump, right, in front of journalists. तो are some things indefensible, या comms अच्छा comms वो होता है जो हर चीज़ को palatable बना देता है, like a good lawyer?
I think comms has to draw the line. You don't have to hide the truth. You can package it in a way that is not sugarcoating, और आपको सच बोलने से घबराना नहीं है. You have to, and that's where आपकी job difficult भी होती है. You'll actually find a lot of comms people, you know, the good ones, extremely headstrong, very argumentative, and very passionate as well. There are some things which, again, our job is not to defend. You have to understand this. My job is to manage, is to make sure कि अगर एक राई है तो उसका पहाड़ नहीं बनने देना, but ऐसा नहीं कि मैं उसको गायब कर दूँ. That's not comms. That's something else. That's something else. That's not what we do. That's not what I do, at least. And you have to manage. So you know when somebody comes in, and this is at the agency as well. I go back to my GI days. He says, client comes in and says कि इसको control करो, उसको वहीं से वापस भेज दो. There's no guarantee. If somebody is guaranteeing you कि जी वो this, you know, if they're asking for a guarantee, उनसे कहो please go to an ad agency. We're comms.
That's not what we do.
This is not
You don't
what we do.
create the truth or a
We
version of it.
we don't manufacture it. We make it we make it just enough for both sides. So you know, you make sure that you put the client side of the story there, but you can't negate and gaslight somebody else. बहुत सारी occasions ऐसी आती, do your due diligence, and you know, you call a spade, but you can't just sort of conjure up something else and say कि जी.
But can you ever, as a comms person, can you ever go back to your CEO or the leadership and say, यार ये सही नहीं हो रहा है, इसको सही करो?
Oh, all the time.
It's getting very difficult to you know justify this or manage this even.
Throughout my career, I have challenged. I have sort of raised कि जी देखिए मेरी बात सुनिए Haris, there's always room for improvement and no matter what we're doing, सही है. So you say कि okay, let's make this better, and you have to understand कि if somebody is giving you feedback, it may not be true, but there's no smoke without fire. It's coming from somewhere. Let's try to understand कि so yes, somebody is and generally होता है by the way कि वो agenda पे आए हैं या उनको they want something from you and so on and so forth, but
कुछ तो हो रहा है ना,
मौका कैसे मिला इसको? So let's find out, and if there is something there, let's fix it. And you have to. So you have to say, I think this is something that we need to work on and improve, and that conversation has to happen. और ये अच्छे कॉम्स के लोग जो अच्छी सीनियर पोजीशंस में वो इसीलिए है because you're able to add that value.
Do you see yourself ever sort of working with a political party or the government maybe as their comms leader?
सोचा तो नहीं है.
But that's a thought there.
सोचा तो नहीं है. But if
Because
it's
वो तो सारे, it's all about public perception.
like I said, I mean, a lot of the work that I've done over the years, there has been a purpose behind it. When I worked with Jazz, we were working on inclusion, we were working on digital financial literacy, we were working on bringing technology and communication to rural areas that were not served before. हम expand कर रहे थे network. Nestle में वहाँ पर हम we were creating shared value with with clean water. At Unilever it was about maternal health, neonatal health, hand hygiene. It was about child play and so on and so forth. तो बहुत ज़्यादा purposeful काम था. तो अगर कोई ऐसी opportunity आती है where I can add value and a positive contribution to society or this country, I definitely consider it. But it has to have value.
So you're considering new roles?
Right now, no, but maybe in the far distant future, why not? And again, देखिए opportunity तो आती है, ढूंढती है आपको. So I love what I do right now, and this is a new space for me. जो customer services वाला portfolio है, I'm learning every single day, and so far तो अभी तो बहुत fit है.
You're doing a wonderful job. Sadia, thank you so much for being on Kaam Kahani. It's a pleasure having you. And we learned so much about the comms function and all of the things around it. So thank you so much and take care. And thank you so much for watching. Next time, see you with another Kaam Kahani.